As I'm sure you're well aware, there have been some recent changes to the driver lineup. At key points in a season, drivers who are due to end their current contracts may choose to move between teams, or even go into retirement. I'll send you an email each time a move occurs to keep you abreast of any recent changes.
Hey there guys, Matthew here and welcome to episode 18 of our F1 2019 career mode, and we are here for the Japanese Grand Prix. And as you've just heard there from Emma, we have our first driver transfers in the career mode, and I'm really surprised that this has happened so late in the season. Usually all the career modes I've watched, you know, you get them driver transfer maybe round 10, Great Britain, maybe Austria, you know, Germany. The latest is probably Spa into the summer break, Hungary potentially, but not at round 17. And to my shock, I have walked into work this morning and I look across from me and I'm sitting opposite Sergio Perez. Kimi Raikkonen has left Alfa Romeo. My teammate who I've been battling all season long has gone. So looking at the driver transfers, and this is absolutely insane, Kimi Raikkonen has been let go by Alfa Romeo. Now I don't know if that means that he is retired. Of course, Kimi, you know, he's a veteran of the sport. I think he's 39 years old. He's done everything that he needs to do in Formula One. So has he retired, or have the team let him go? I don't know why he'd retire with 5 races left of the season. I think it is. So by the sounds of it, Alfa Romeo have let Kimi go. They've got rid of my teammate, and I am now partnered with Sergio Perez. So that means that he has left Racing Point to join me here at Alfa Romeo, and he's been replaced by the guy who I replaced at Alfa Romeo, Antonio Giovinazzi. It's absolutely incredible driver transfers here. I did not see this coming at this stage of the season anyway. Never mind our teammate. I mean, I've seen plenty of career modes on YouTube where, you know, there's been a crazy driver transfer, people have moved, but never their own teammate. But yeah, we're up to round 17, and Kimi Raikkonen has gone from Formula One. Absolute madness, and ironically it comes just after we get the contract to be first driver, so I don't know if us getting the contract of first driver, Kimi obviously being told, yeah, you're second driver now, mate, he's maybe, you know, kicked off, he doesn't like it, he's left, you know, has he left because of us? I honestly have no idea. So yeah, unbelievable stuff. Kimi Raikkonen has gone, and hello to our new partner, Sergio Perez, who of course has been doing incredibly well so far this season. I think he was best of the rest, and yeah, he is 7th in the Drivers' Championship, had a stellar season with a Racing Point. They'll be gutted to lose him, so now we have potentially an even tougher teammate for the rest of the season. So Sergio, welcome to Alfa Romeo. Unbelievable scenes here, and yeah, the guy who we have replaced here, who would have had our seat at Alfa Romeo, has joined Racing Point in Perez's place. So anyway, yeah, crazy scenes here to start this episode. As well as that, we have got a completely wet qualifying, which should spice things up for the race. And also, to add more drama, the only upgrade we were planning on bringing this weekend, the drag reduction upgrade on the aero, has failed. Which means that, looking at the R&D, despite us adapting all of our parts and thinking we had a bit of an advantage, we've dropped below Haas and Renault, who've made significant upgrades this weekend. So we now drop to the middle of the midfield, just ahead of McLaren, and Racing Point have also gained on us as well. Williams have plateaued after a good couple of weeks of upgrading, but Toro Rosso have made a minor upgrade as well. So yeah, ridiculous start to this episode. We've got a wet qualifying ahead of us, a brand new teammate, Kimi is gone. Let's start the race weekend at the Japanese Grand Prix. So here we go then for qualifying, and as you can see, we have heavy rain for the entire session pretty much. So yeah, it's going to be difficult to get through, I think, in the top 10 with the weather conditions like this. We've not had any wet weather racing throughout the entire race weekend, so we are going into this session blind slightly. But what we did notice is that we are extremely strong towards the end of the lap, in the sort of end of the second sector, third sector. But yeah, the first sector and the sort of first half of the second sector, we are not very good around here. So we've had to either pick relying on our straight line speed to get us through, or maybe trying to utilise a bit of downforce. And as we have done many times, we've chose to go with straight line speed. So hopefully, you know, these conditions can bring the field a bit closer together. We weren't really in the top 10 in the practice sessions. We were sort of hovering just on the outside. And Sergio Perez, well, he made one hell of a statement in his first couple of sessions as a Alfa Romeo driver, because he outdid us in every single practice session. So we are going to be up against it with the Mexican. So we're going to see if we can at least get into Q2. I think a free choice of tyre for the race tomorrow won't hurt, but Q3 might be a bit of a push. So it's not been a bad first lap considering we are driving in the wets for the first time this weekend. We go through 130R, flat out still, even in the wet conditions. I think we've mistimed our braking point through there, and we've ran too deep. We've messed up the chicane. It wasn't a bad lap up until then, but I think that's going to mess it up and compromise. And because of that, we finish with a 146.5, which is the slowest lap at the moment. And I dare say probably the slowest lap of the session. As you can see, we are still bottom 8th now. So a poor first lap as we mucked it up on the chicane. Let's see if we can do a bit better on our second run. So we're out for our second lap in Q1, and as you can see, our first lap was absolutely horrendous. It was the worst lap by a country mile, and we are miles adrift of the pack. But what we've done is we've left this lap as late as possible in the hope that the track does begin to dry up. We muck up the first corner again under these wet conditions, but Pierre Gasly has just set the fastest lap so far in the session, which does prove that there is potentially a little bit of track evolution in terms of it drying up, which could benefit us and might be our only hope in getting through into Q2. So here we go then, crawling through the S section there.
20 minutes of light rain.
As you can hear from Jeff there, the conditions have changed to light rain, so we're just going to try and dance our way through the track. Conditions are drying up slightly, so I do think we are going to get quicker. We are almost a 10th up on our previous time, so we might just squeeze through if the track dries up enough. Round the hairpin we go. We've jumped back down into the red delta, so we're just going to have to push our absolute hardest. We are still miles off what we need to qualify into Q2. I think we were a second adrift of anyone else, so we not only need to get out of the red delta, but we need to make up a lot of time as well. So this could be where we get to do it, down the long straight around 130R. If we can get a clean run through here on the chicane, where I think we lost 7 tenths previously, this could be the difference maker.
You're lapping slower than Sergio. We're slower than Sergio.
And once again we go too deep into the chicane, and that, I think, despite us gaining through the final couple of corners, we've mucked up on the chicane again, misjudged our braking distance, and would you believe it, we've qualified in 20th place. So that is a pretty horrendous qualifying session, without doubt the worst that we've had in our career. We come through with a 146.3, over a second adrift of the closest car. Yeah, it was a terrible qualifying session. We've not had any running around the Japanese, around Suzuka in the wet weather all weekend, so we had to adapt pretty quickly. We were behind in throughout practice, struggled to get a stable setup between front downforce and rear downforce, and yeah, we were going into this qualifying session on the back foot as it was really, and the conditions have just made things worse, and we will be starting from the very back of the grid. We just didn't have enough laps behind us to really gauge the confidence to drive wet around Suzuka. The car, I think the setup that we had on the car was a race setup as well, with much lower downforce than what we probably needed in qualifying, and obviously under park firming conditions we couldn't change that. So yeah, we're starting from the back of the grid, and we are out alongside Albon, Russell, Hülkenberg and Lance Stroll. Antonio Giovinazzi does squeeze in to Q2 in his first race back in Formula 1, And our teammate Sergio Perez does just make the top 10 in Q1. He was, 2.5 seconds ahead of us. So, yeah, it's simply a qualifying to forget for us. So we'll skip over this one. And we'll move on into the race. I think what we'll do is we'll take a huge bunch of engine penalties since we're at the back of the grid. We'll get a new engine in the back of the car, and hopefully we can have a bit of fun and a bit of an overtaking showreel in the race tomorrow.
Good day today. Let's have your take on it. Do you think you and your new teammate are going to work well together?
Good day today. I don't know where you've got that one from. Do I think me and Sergio are going to work together well? I'll just say that
Weather hasn't been ideal in qualifying.
With racing point decrease there. Weather hasn't been ideal in qualifying. What's your take on it? I'll just say at this level you have to be able to perform in all weather conditions. Didn't realise that the previous question was...
You will be starting at the front of the pack. Are you worried?
I'm not worried at all. Don't worry, but we have to make the best of it. No, I'm not going to say I'm worried. I'm not going to say we're going to struggle. I'm going to keep my cards close to my chest on that one.
That's everything.
But that first question lowered our rep with the Racing Point team. I didn't realise that the answer I was giving was digging at them and Sergio's time at the Racing Point team. But I'm not too bothered about that.
That was one of the worst qualifying performances I've ever seen. The only way is up from here, hopefully.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you for that lovely piece of confidence heading into the race there. That really does make me feel better. So, we're going to have to simply bounce back from our worst qualifying of the season. In the car we have, we should be doing much better than that. So, like I said, what we're going to do before we start the race is, we might as well take a full hit. We've got nothing to lose. We're at the back of the grid anyway. So we are going to take a full set of engine components, which will give us an unbelievably quick car for the race tomorrow. As for the gearbox, that still looks okay. I'm not going to touch the gearbox. We'll have a brand new one. It'll give us 6 races. How many races do we have left? Actually, we've got less than 6 races left. So what I will do is I'll take a new gearbox, and that's guaranteed to last us the rest of the season. So, yeah, huge, good penalty. I think it's a 55-place penalty, but we're starting at the back anyway. So, let's just have some fun and redeem ourselves at the Japanese Grand Prix tomorrow.
And a very warm welcome to the Japanese Grand Prix, an event that has decided a Drivers' Championship 11 times over the years and has hosted some very memorable races as well. Who can forget Kimi Raikkonen's win from 17th on the grid in 2005, or Kamui Kobayashi's incredible drive to a podium in 2012. A lap of this historic racetrack covers 3.6 miles, and it's the only time during the season that we race on a figure-of-8 racetrack. The drivers can expect some intense G-forces through the 18 corners on offer here as they experience some of the highest average apex speeds on the Formula One calendar. And keep an eye out for overtakes going into the final chicane. And a warm welcome to Anthony Davidson, who's with me in the commentary box today, discussing the new driver lineup. Can we begin by having a chat about Sergio Perez? They've just moved to Alfa Romeo. How do you think they'll get on?
Well, I think this came as something of a surprise to most of us, but it could end up being a bit of a coup for the team. Getting a driver with experience higher up in the field might just be the boost they need, and I'm sure they'll be a big asset as the team continues to develop their car.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Vettel, Leclerc, Pierre Gasly, and Sainz, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Giovinazzi, and Lando Norris. Butler, Perez, Romain Grosjean, and Verstappen. They've taken a grid penalty. Stroll, Hülkenberg, George Russell, and Alexander Albon. Weber and the Rainmaster. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
You qualify qualified lower than we expected. See if you can make up some places off the start.
Thank you, Jeff. And as you can see, our teammate Sergio Perez actually only managed to qualify in 12th, so that makes me feel slightly better that our car isn't too great around here. But yeah, here we are then on the grid for the Japanese Grand Prix, and I feel like I have some serious making up to do for the team. Yeah, after all the great stuff we've done this season, I really don't want to, you know, have this 20th place qualifying sticking out like a sore thumb sort of thing. So we're going to try and hit back. It's been a tough weekend for us so far in practice and qualifying. So in the race, we're going to fuel the car up a little bit. We've got a fresh new engine, fresh gearbox, and we're going to go for the most aggressive strategy possible. It's going to be a one-stop round here no matter what. So, you know, tyre wear's, you know, non-existent really around Suzuka, and medium to hards. I don't really fancy the hard tyres. I think we've got to get on the softs, make some overtakes early, and yeah, just be bold, be brave, and yeah, make fun of this race as we are starting at the very back alongside Lucas Weber, no doubt. So yeah, let's go and let's have some fun. So here we are then on the grid for the Japanese Grand Prix. And it's lights out and away we go, and it's not a bad start from us in comparison to Alex Albon, but Lucas Weber gets a flying start around the outside in that Williams, and I think he's got Albon heading into the first corner. We'll see if we can hang around the outside, if there's any space down the inside. Not quite. Albon going side by side with Lucas Weber, heading through this first corner. Albon catches the grass slightly, gets his elbows out, forces Weber out onto the left. These two going side by side, wheel to wheel between Albon and Weber. Contact between the two as we headed through the S's. We've just got to stay behind us. Once again they jostle for position, and the both of them have lost out to George Russell already. We're just going to try and wait for our moment, see if we can potentially make a move, but nothing doing so far.
That start was okay, now stay alert for threats around you.
We just need to maybe try and pick a moment as we're going to dart down the inside of our former F2 teammate. Albon goes wide and opens the door for us there, weirdly enough, so we'll take that from Alex Albon. Thank you very much. We'll hang around the outside, but the fresh engine that we do have, as we get caught slightly by Albon, who's keeping his nose in here, so we have to take the inside line slightly, and we finally squeeze in a very aggressive Toro Rosso out there, and we are up to P18. So here we go then, down the back straight towards 130R, a corner where there's always incidents. We'll try and use the slipstream of George Russell to potentially get close to him heading into the chicane. We've run a little bit wide, and nothing doing through there as there's a slight lock-up by the Williams. So not a bad first lap. We've gained 2 positions. Let's see if we can continue marching up through the order. On the back of George Russell now as we head through the hairpin, and we're right on the gearbox of that Williams car. We're going to dance left and right behind Russell, try and put him under a bit of pressure, maybe try and make a mistake, see if he runs deep into the spoon section, possibly try and get it on the inside, but George shuts the door on us there, so we have to back out. And because we were a little bit eager to get past him, we've got Alex Albon now coming round our outside around 130R. It's not the place to really make an overtake. Once again we make contact with Albon, and he has to back out there as we squeeze him through 130R, but what a dangerous place it is to try and make an overtake. So fair play to Alex Albon for trying to get us there, but our eagerness to get past George Russell cost us on that lap. Here we are down the start finish straight on George Russell. We've gained massively as we try and go round the outside of turn 1. Russell parks his car perfectly though, doesn't get sucked in to potentially going deep through there, and we have to hang back behind the Williams once again, and this is not helping our race whatsoever. We really need to be marching up the order in the early stages of this first stint, and as you can see the rest of the pack are getting away from the Williams, and that's sort of cutting us off from the rest as well. So we need to get past George Russell as soon as possible. We're pushing our absolute hardest, we're putting the tyres through a lot of stress at the moment. The sooner we get past the Williams and we put him in between us and Alex Albon, the better. So we'll see if we can get a good exit from that hairpin once again. We seem to get much better traction through there than the Williams car. So we'll follow him down through the spoon section, and if we can get a good exit heading down to 130R, we might have to make a very bold move, and that's much better through there from us. So we're right on the the gearbox once again of George Russell up into overtake mode on the ERS. We're going to use the slipstream of the Williams. Do we want to make a move into 130R? We back out just ever so slightly, lift off, give Russell the room as well. We're going to see if we can swing it round the outside of the final chicane. We'll try swinging back not once but twice. We have DRS on the start finish straight. We're still hounding the back of that Williams, and because we got such a good exit through that final chicane, we can carry the momentum through and finally get past Russell onto lap 5. So now we've cleared our fellow Brit. Let's see if we can chase after the pack in front of us. So we are on the back of Nico Hülkenberg, heading into the hairpin, and we're going to try a move down the inside of our current F1 rival. We'll leave Hülkenberg the space. We'll squeeze him out slightly onto the curb, and that puts us up into P16. So we clear the Renault, our on-track rival, and of course a constructor that's right next to us in terms of R&D, and we'll move through the spoon section. But we have got a huge train of cars ahead of us as Nico Hülkenberg potentially eyes up a move on us heading into 130R. We have Max Verstappen ahead of us, who's obviously starting with grid penalties, but we do keep Hülkenberg in behind us as we try and have a look down the inside of Verstappen, who's having none of it. Heading on to lap 8 of this Grand Prix, and we're in 16th place. We'll try and get on the power a little bit sooner than Verstappen, but he gets a good getaway on the back of Lance Stroll, I think it is, who is defending hard against the Red Bull. Verstappen not being able to make any gains in this Grand Prix so far. He's getting held up slightly, and that's what we don't want to, the situation we don't want to be in. So we'll try and use the slipstream from Verstappen, who's having a look at maybe getting the better of Lance Stroll through 130R. We've got a Renault right behind us. Verstappen makes the move clean. Stroll has to lift off. We'll see if we can get him heading into the chicane. We'll hang around the outside of the racing point, get our elbows out, squeeze him into the second phase.
Nice move.
And that aggressive move from us there gets us above Lance Stroll.
In the pit window, you'll be on the mediums.
And up into P15. He's now having to defend aggressively to the inside to prevent Nico Hülkenberg from getting by. Here we go up through 130R, and it's the two Haas cars going wheel to wheel. Grosjean and Magnussen going side by side through there, and Magnussen is forced to lift off this time. We're going to see if we can get around the outside of Max Verstappen. There's a lock up by Kevin Magnussen. We try and make the same move stick on Max, but the chassis of that Red Bull is superior, and we have to simply try and stick with him through here. We do have DRS though, as we were behind Verstappen, and because of that he's lost out to both us and Lance Stroll, and he might even lose out to Nico Hülkenberg. There's a yellow flag, and it's Nico Hülkenberg who's off, and we have a safety car. So huge fighting on lap 1 as Verstappen lost a number of places. He tried to go defensive on Nico Hülkenberg, and as you can see from the onboard, he tries to squeeze down the inside, gets smacked by Verstappen's right rear, and takes Nico Hülkenberg out, as you see there, cuts across and bang, takes the Renault out of the Grand Prix. So despite Hülkenberg, I think, getting thrown off the track, I don't think he hit the barriers, so he won't have sustained much damage. But yeah, huge collision on turn 1. It looked almost desperate from Max Verstappen, who lost out to us initially, and then because he lost out to us, he got such a terrible exit. Lance Stroll got the better of him as well.
Problem was, they're coming back up to speed.
And yeah, Verstappen worried that he might drop right to, I think, 18th on the grid. He yeah, got desperate, slammed the door shut on Nico Hülkenberg.
Your speed, our delta is too low, and we risk a penalty.
And I think he might have cost the Renault possibly a good race here today. So we are going to turn everything down. We are under the safety car rules now, so we are going to have to go a little bit slower. But the team are wanting us to go in for our pit stop now, and they want us to pit on the hard tyre, which is their alternative strategy. And I don't really see the benefit between pitting on the hards as opposed to the mediums, which we would have pitted on anyway. So all they're doing there is asking us to go onto a slow tyre when we would have pitted on lap 11 anyway, and the mediums clearly can last the rest of the Grand Prix, so we won't be doing that. So I think everyone will be pitting in on this lap to save losing time, and I think there's enough of a gap between us and Sergio Perez to get the double stack done successfully. Whereas it didn't work with us and Kimi in Russia, it should work a treat with us and Perez here. So hopefully the double stack can hinder a few other cars. We come in and we are stuck behind Perez, so it's going to hinder us. So we thought we might have a little bit more time to play with. This is exactly what hindered Kimi Räikkönen in Japan, sorry, in Russia. And we now see what that feels like. So we, I think, lose out a couple of places. We come out in P13 actually, so I don't know if we have lost out. To be fair, we might have still gained on a few cars. We might have been held up a little bit more, but we are up into P13 nevertheless, and by the looks of it, the car ahead of us, Devon Butler, and Max Verstappen behind us are on the hard tyre, so a lot of the AI seem to have went onto this alternative strategy, soft to hard, which is a bit strange because we were never going to make that strategy. We were always going to go onto the mediums on lap 11, so we're on the fresher tyre. Well, we're on a faster tyre. It will degrade towards the end of the Grand Prix, but it is the faster tyre. The hard will probably become the optimum tyre towards the end of the race, but there's still 16 laps to go, so if a lot of the AI have chose to go on the hards, this could be a massive opportunity for us to make some overtakes on the restart, because the hard tyres take a lot longer to warm up, they take a lot longer to get into that optimum window, and it's not the hottest day here in Japan, so
You're losing a small amount of time to the car behind. Keep pushing.
here we are down the start-finish straight, and there's 4 or 5 cars jostling for position on the inside, dancing left and right. Lando Norris just sticking ahead of Roman Grosjean. We had a little look round the outside of Devon Butler, but we suddenly have Max Verstappen side by side with us through the S section, and we just stay ahead of the Red Bull, who tried to get his nose in as we were too occupied trying to see if there was a gap in front. We forgot about Max Verstappen, who's right behind us, on Lance Stroll as well, as we get onto the grass there. Verstappen dives down the inside, and Verstappen has caught our right rear, and he is off as well. Unbelievable scenes here as we just lost our bearings and went over the grass. Max Verstappen come through, he catches our right rear, and off he goes. So as you see, Verstappen sees a gap round the inside. We do leave him the space, but we catch tyres, and that sends Verstappen spinning. We said Max wouldn't hesitate if the door was open, and we left it open slightly and get a warning from the stewards following that collision with Max. Looking on our onboard here as we go into the right-hander. Max is down our inside. Oh, do we leave him the space? He does just have enough to get his wheels over the curb. We hit his front left, and we send Max spinning. So is that a racing incident? Is that an error on our part? Please let me know in the comments below, but we've potentially just ruined Max Verstappen's Grand Prix. So he's at the back of the grid, and he's going to be extra unhappy with us following that collision. But we stay in P13. We only get a warning from the stewards though, so if it was a really dangerous collision, they would have gave us a penalty. So they'll probably see it as a racing incident, give us a warning, and we can move on with the race. So we try and get a sharper entry into that hairpin, but once again Butler is able to pull away with ease. I'm not sure if it's the tow, the slipstream he's getting from Grosjean, that it's helping him out as Grosjean goes defensive into the spoon section. This might hold Butler up a little bit, so we need to get a good exit down towards 130R this time. Again, Butler pulls away from us. Lance Stroll as well behind, looking at our slipstream to try and make a move. Butler, though, is going to try and make a move on Roman Grosjean. It's very tight between the two. We're just going to carry all of our momentum through 130R, and I think we might get the two of them. Grosjean keeps his nose in to the chicane, gives us the room. We squeeze him out, and we overtake the two of them, and that puts us up into P11. A very brave move by us there to just not lift off, heading through 130R as it's 3 wide between Grosjean, Stroll and Butler, and there's another yellow flag, and it's Butler who's off this time. It's all happening around Suzuka. The three of them go 3 wide, as you can see. Butler on the inside, you've got Grosjean, and once again it's a similar scenario to what happened with Hülkenberg and Verstappen. Butler going down the inside, and I think it's Grosjean shuts the door on him, clatters into his left front, and it's Butler who goes flying off into the gravel trap. So a third incident here at Suzuka between the Haas and the Toro Rosso. Butler now drops to the back of the grid. So surprisingly, the safety car come out when Hulkenberg went off, but it's not come out this time around. So we are now up to P11 following that brave overtake. And beyond belief, due to racing incidents, gaining under the safety car and some overtakes, the points and the first point position in 10th is within our grasp here. So here we go then, down towards 130R. We've got slipstream on Daniel Ricciardo. We're going to try and make a move through 130R, and we do, and we've clattered into the Renault. And it's us who's gone off this time. We've skidded across the track and we've been clattered.
Right, engine off, engine off.
We tried going down the inside of Ricciardo into 130R, and we've clattered into the Renault. And as we've tried to continue and keep on the track, we've been smashed by a Haas car, I believe. And I think it is Kevin Magnussen who just doesn't see us coming as we spin back across the track, and it's a huge collision between us and the Dane. And because of that, we have to retire from a very eventful and in the end disastrous Japanese Grand Prix.
Ferrari have really pulled it out of the bag today. It's a great win. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
Without a doubt, the safety car changed everything today. The key to their success was keeping calm and reacting to the situation quickly. We've seen teams in the past throw away wins because they were too hesitant, but here they were decisive, and that's allowed them to take the advantage.
And here we are, a team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today, and a stunning win for Ferrari. See what effect this result has had on the drivers' standings. It's a great result for Lewis Hamilton, who moves further ahead at the top of the table. Let's focus on the driver of the day, Anthony Davidson. Who do you pick?
Well, there was a lot of incredible driving out there today, Crofty, but if I had to pick someone, it's got to be Sergio Perez. Fantastic driving.
Let's move on to the constructors. Our championship leaders retain their position, but their lead is shrinking. Well, Ant, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
Well, what an eventful and in the end disastrous Grand Prix for us in the Alfa Romeo. From start to finish this weekend has just been a roller coaster, a really tough practice session, last in qualifying, and we crash out in dramatic fashion along with Kevin Magnussen. So back to the top then. I mean, it's a great result for Sebastian Vettel. He wins the Japanese Grand Prix ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who also got the fastest lap. Charles Leclerc joins them on the podium with Valtteri Bottas just missing out. Pierre Gasly in 5th. And our teammate Sergio Perez, well, he's made his mark, hasn't he? He's got driver of the day in his first race for Alfa Romeo and climbed from 12th up to 6th. And yeah, he's really shown us up this weekend and made a statement as he joins the team. Carlos Sainz is 7th. Giovinazzi does well in his first race for Racing Point, finishing in 8th with Max Verstappen, despite that crash early on in the Grand Prix with ourselves. He climbs into the points, up into 9th. Lando Norris is in the final points position in 10th. So going further down the order then, the two Renaults drop out of the points. Disappointing weekend for both of them. And of course, yeah, Devon Butler never recovered from the incident he had with Grosjean earlier in the Grand Prix. He finished last on track, and of course our collision on 130R with Daniel Ricciardo caused us to go flying across the track, collide with Magnussen and take him out of the Grand Prix as well. So what that does for the standings then, Bottas overtakes Max Verstappen into 4th in the Drivers' Championship. We maintain our position in P9, but yeah, Perez, I guess you could say, gains ground on us and Lando Norris in 7th, and best of the rest. And Giovinazzi, of course, starting from scratch, does get his first points, and already in one race overtakes both Albon and George Russell. As for the constructors, no change there then. Perez does get us a little bit of points, which does help the team out. But other than that, it's all the same. I think Ferrari have cut down Mercedes' lead at the top, and McLaren are still 11 points behind us in 5th.
Didn't really go your way today. Let's have your take. Lucas flew through the pack in that race. What's his secret?
So randomly asked about our former F2 teammate. I'm just going to say he's a lot of hard work and practice.
Are you looking forward to working with your new teammate?
Great drive, both gonna have a great car. He's talented. I'm sure we can learn a lot from each other. I'll say that, yeah. You know, Sergio is talented and very experienced as well.
Not the best way to end a race. What went wrong?
What went wrong? The only answers we have are really sort of insulting the car, and it was nothing to do with the car. It was our fault. So, yeah, no comment on that one.
It wasn't the cleanest race today, was it?
It wasn't. Once again, I was an idiot magnet. I'm not going to really sort of insult other drivers. I'm not sure what happened out there. Again, we won't comment on that question.
Well, thanks anyway.
So in terms of the rivalries then, it's an awful weekend for us as well. Hülkenberg gains huge ground on us in our rivalry with him, leading 9 points to 4. And Sergio Perez also gets way ahead of us, leading us 6 points to 1. And yeah, it's just been a disaster really, and it was a stupid move down 130R in hindsight. It's a very tough place to overtake on, and we should have really saw the danger. So our rep with a lot of teams decreases, and it's quite a damaging race for us in terms of our reputation. As you see, we dropped down towards rookie slightly, and it was a rookie error.
What on earth was that performance? Come on, this isn't bumper cars at the fairground. Your results and conduct here matter, so pay more attention. We can't afford too many races like that.
So Emma, not happy with not happy with our performance, which is understandable. It was a messy race weekend. A couple of transcripts here. He was asked, Lucas, about us not having a good race. He said, I feel Rowney will take it on the chin and use it as an opportunity to determine exactly what went wrong out there today. They're a fantastic driver, and this is the kind of thing that happens to even the best. He was asked about traffic and also about him and his teammate, and he just basically gave George a little bit of sportsmanship there. And Devon was also asked, how do you think Matthew Rowney will react to having not been able to finish today's race? Here we go. I think it's really unfortunate for my old sparring buddy, but maybe that's just the way things go. Formula 1 is a huge step up from the simpler days of F2, and it requires you to be on your A game constantly in order to succeed. It pains me to say, but maybe my old rival just doesn't cut the mustard. Wow, Devon Butler still digging at us even to this day. Let's just look at the Drivers' Championship and see who cuts the mustard. Devon Butler. Let's have a look at the constructors. So we're in 9th, and Devon is down in 18th. I thought as much, but we'll move on from that. So yeah, we'll move on from this race quickly. I think that's the only thing we can do. One that we just have to chalk off and forget. Move on from. We have a couple of resource points to spend, and we're going to do that now. So obviously the previous aero upgrade did fail, so what we're going to do is we're going to rectify that, so that will definitely be ready for the next Grand Prix, which I believe is the USA Grand Prix. That leaves us with 855 resource points, and we don't have enough to make either of the major chassis upgrades on the chassis. We don't have enough for either of the aero either, so maybe we could just look at making an engine upgrade. So we'll keep pushing on the engine, we may as well, and we're going to upgrade, I think, on the spark plugs. Even though we've got a good engine already, we'll develop that. And it's actually the Mexican Grand Prix which is next, so that's my bad. But yeah, that's been an eventful, crazy, chaotic, and in the end, terrible episode for us here around Japan. We'll move on to the Mexican Grand Prix in the next episode, where we'll have 2 minor upgrades hopefully coming our way. But until then, if you guys have enjoyed this video, do give it a like, of course, do subscribe to the channel for much more F1 2019 content to come. And we'll be back for the next Grand Prix in Mexico. But until then, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.